Tell us what's going on with East African Portland Cement. The shares were suspended in December, and now the regulator has intervened with a ban of trading for 60 days. There's a dispute between the board and the government, but the government's a shareholder. It's quite complex. Simplify it for us, please.
Well, just to give you an idea of the government shareholding, it's basically a 25% stake. And really where it gets its authority is that the government tends to combine its stake and that of the National Social Security Fund to give it a controlling stake. So, and then on the basis of that, it's been making board decisions, essentially in terms of choosing the board of directors and the CEO who actually runs the company. And actually, it's actually the company which has had the most turnover in terms of CEOs over the last 7 years.
All right, so what is in dispute here?
Well, the minister is alleging that that the management basically had corruption allegations. Essentially, the allegations, and on both sides, we've had issues coming through. So at this point, we can't say for sure who's sort of on the right or who's on the wrong. But there are a lot of questions being raised as to the legality of the intervention by government. And there's also now a court order that the management has to return to the company, but they've been prevented by the employees of East African Portland Cement. So it's all getting quite challenging at this time. And you know, the other quiet shareholder who we're not seeing coming up is Lafarge. Basically, Bamburi has a stake and Lafarge. So the combined stake really is in Lafarge, and that shareholder has been quiet.
All right, let's move on now to what's happening also on the market. And Safaricom, they're doing really well. We know that they're the largest company in terms of market cap. We know that they're a foreign investor's darling. But they're also recovering with regards to the largest recorded voice traffic in recent history. So they had a bit of a wobbly period in the middle of last year, but they seem to be clawing their way back up.
Yes, certainly, and we expected that. If you look at the first half performance, down almost 50% in terms of profits. But beyond that, they increased their tariffs, and you know, we thought the minutes of use would come off. But it's actually quite surprising that, you know, the minutes of use have kept on pace, and that's very positive. So it means voice recovers quite strongly. We also think M-Pesa is going to do very well. So, you know, it's all running very well for Safaricom. I think it's only on the internet side that we're not very sure. But in any case, if you combine voice and M-Pesa, it comes in very well. Let's
talk about that internet side, because if you looked at some of the operators in an economy like South Africa, about a third of their revenues are now coming from data. And people are saying this is the new way forward. Data is going to be the new innovator, the game changer. Why is it not so for Safaricom? Why is it not so for operators in East Africa?
I think there are also quite a number of other players who are delivering data in different ways. So when somebody is a heavy user of data, they sort of move either to fiber optic or either delivered wirelessly, you know, through WiMAX, and that's not necessarily the mobile operators. So there's that element, and there's also the element of pricing. So in the East African market in particular, we've seen quite a bit of discounting, and that's also eating into the share in terms of revenues.
Let's talk about Rio Vipinga, which is up 2% or 2.04%. And we've got news that they're venturing into horticulture. Is this a good call?
I think going by the results that they've just posted, I mean, close to 600% growth in earnings, it appears probably to vindicate their strategy. And you know, last year they bought an additional acreage on sisal, and they're the largest producers of sisal. And they had horticulture sort of on a trial basis, and they really now appear to be going into it in a lot more aggressive manner. So, I mean, I think it makes sense, and probably also to reduce their exposure on sisal, because essentially that has been the big part of their business.
I think the reason I'm asking is we're seeing other agro processors utilizing excess land for real estate development. There is a sense that that's a more profitable way to use land and probably suspend some of your core agricultural proficiencies. Rio Vipingo is taking the alternate view. Why is that?
Well, now it depends on where the land is located. So if you look at Rio Vipingo, they have the bulk of their estates within Kenya and Tanzania. So maybe if you're looking at the land that they could potentially use for real estate, maybe it would be in Kenya, which is maybe closer to the coast of Kenya. So maybe that's not where really they're looking at putting in horticulture. But if you look at the rest of the land, it's really in remote locations. So you wouldn't really say you can put it in for real estate.
Another gainer today at 1.8% up is housing finance. Now, obviously, we know that there's been a real estate boom, that the sector's reinvigorated, but we also know that interest rates are at their highest levels. Inflation is also quite high, although we started to see a little bit more declines in December. But the point is, you're not getting a lot of value for your shilling in Kenya at the moment. And so the question is, as a mortgage financier, in an environment of rising inflationary pressures, will they continue to do well?
I mean, for 2011, I think they're going to post a good performance. Maybe we'll probably see a weaker performance in the fourth quarter, but overall for the year, it's going to be quite good for them. Longer term, we still think the business makes sense. We see interest rates starting to come off. I think the idea for them is to be able to get deposits and maybe funding at an affordable rate in order to offer mortgages at relatively affordable rates. At this level of pricing, obviously becomes very difficult to really get traction in terms of numbers.